Welcome to Real Money Talks, how to make money, manage money, and invest money. Your Real Money Talks host, Loral Langemeier, gets straight to the point about what it actually takes to make money and build lasting wealth in today's changing economic climate. If you're ready to get the financial results you've always dreamed of, keep listening. Real Money Talks is the right place for you. And now here's your host, Loral Langemeier.
Hi, this is Loral, and we are at Loral's Real Money Talks again on our podcast, where we teach people how to make money, keep money, and invest money. And every conversation is different. Some is about investing, and some is about making, and some is about keeping. And so today I have world-leading expert Linda Kane, who's my event manager. She helps plan my events and make sure they're profitable. There are so many people who do events and they are clueless, and like we could name names of people who are still trying to pay off an event from a year ago because they didn't bring you in and they didn't bring a P&L. So let's just talk about events in general. So just get us started. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Okay, so I'm Linda Kane with Blue Diamond Event Management, and I've been doing live events now with coaches and entrepreneurs for about 12 years. And I met Loral about 8 years ago when she was on Adam Urbanski's stage doing a talk, and I fell in love with her then. And I told her at that event someday I would be doing hers. And here I am about 6 years later, and she's one of my top clients, and we are having a blast doing very profitable events.
And so, I think the profitability, right, because I'm so far into this with you, starts at the venue booking. So let's kind of walk it through, like what creates a profitable event. Obviously, bringing people into the show, but we'll get to that later. Let's talk about just, you can't book an event unless you have a venue. So give them some venue tips. How do you get a profitable venue?
Sure. So one of the things that you have to do is when you're especially dealing with hotels, they're going to have what they put a value on, like real estate for the site for their room. So they're either going to charge you a room rental or they're going to want you to spend money in food and beverage to has a value on that. And a typical 50-person room will start off at about $7,500 in value. And so that's expensive. You've got to do at least a $200 ticket to 50 people just to cover your food and beverage costs. So you want to start negotiating down with them. So you talked about what you're bringing, how many people are from the area, what the marketing is like. You offer them shout outs, give them some free publicity that, you're going to be at their hotel, put links on your Facebook, anything that you can think of that heightens them and gives them free publicity is going to help you. So we do a few of those things. The other thing you want to do is you never want to pay room rental and food and beverage. It's either or. And if you do a room rental, you want to get that way down so that you're just no food. Everybody's on their own. So you want to go under $1,000 a day for a room rental. Get it down to $250, $300 if you can. Typically, that's not going to happen, especially if you're using more like the Marriotts and Hiltons and the higher end hotels. So with enough negotiation and really pushing and giving them the benefits of why they should have you at the event, you can typically get a room of 50 down to about $3,000 for food and beverage for a 3-day event.
Well, and here's the other thing I would just notice, and, I've had really bad event managers. I mean, the one you just, took over from. I mean, just, that was a whole project. But here's you make it such common sense. Like, why pay for the room when you can give your guests food? So even when we book for a couple hours, you always do a great job of trading out the room rental to give them, I don't care if it's cookies, brownies, some protein snacks, like something. Like always, your guests are going to appreciate your food more than the stupid room. So.
Absolutely. And then people ask me all the time, I'm going to do a 50, 100-person 3-day training. So there's different kinds of events. So you want to try to, depending on what you're teaching and training, if it's transformational and you're really going to spend a lot of time in the room, you're going to, depending on the type of hotel, you're going to be anywhere from $5,000 to $18,000 for your food and beverage. If you're doing a 50 to 100 person and it's a training and there's not a lot of food and beverage and there's not a lot of hotel stay either, then you want to get that down to, $3,000, $5,000. The other thing that you can do is utilize guest rooms against the meeting space as well. So the more people that you have that stay at the hotel, the more chance you have of having people lower the food and beverage down for you, because they want to either make it in room revenue or they want to make it in food and beverage. But at all costs, stay away from paying both food and beverage and room rental.
Or securing hotel rooms.
Right.
Because if you don't book them, then you're stuck with them.
Right, exactly. So go for the minimum on those as well.
So let's talk about other profitability areas. So, or actually expense areas. So if venue's one, what else do you find that people make mistakes on? And where I'm going to guide you is probably AV, because I don't think, like, we buy our own.
Yeah.
We haul our own stuff around.
Audiovisual is another one. Hotels will charge you, there's rack prices out there. So what that means is if you were to go to a regular audiovisual company, they're going to give you a quote, let's say $6,000 for a 3-day event to $9,000 for, 2 screens, cameras.
I scream at that.
Yeah, 2 screens, cameras, all of that, mics, everything that you need. You see at a typical show in town, but they're going to charge you 3 times. So they're going to charge you that rack price every day. So all of a sudden, your $6,000 quote at a hotel is going to end up to being $12,000 to $15,000. So if you're going to do a lot of events, I highly recommend that you buy some of your own equipment and teach a team member how to run it, and then use the hotel staff for when you're in trouble or something breaks or you need, some help.
And so for somebody to buy kind of the setup that I have, I mean, I don't even know, I just give my team the credit card and they buy stuff.
Yeah.
So what do you think like our setup is? We have our own speakers, our own little sound things, all those mics, all that stuff that you see. I don't even know what it all is. Just use it. So what's a typical just get it and haul it around with you setup?
About $3,000 for really good equipment.
Wow. And that can probably last as long as you take good care of it.
If you take good care of it, it will last you for a couple years.
Perfect.
Yep.
So where else are you seeing the expense side of this? So obviously there's the hotel, obviously hotel rooms, there's AV. What about all the other, there's a huge marketing expense to put these together.
So you don't need to have big fancy binders and handouts and workbooks and Chotskis and all that kind of stuff.
Why not?
Because really the people are there to be educated and to learn. So just have handouts that relate to that particular subject matter during that hour, right?
Yep.
You don't need 10 pages to talk about a funnel. You just need the 1 page. Show them how to do the funnel, put it up on a whiteboard or a flip chart and have them work it in their seat, right? So you can save expenses that way. You also can get sponsors to help out with some of that as well. They can have a registration sponsor, and that covers your badges and your lanyards and, a gift bag or something like that for them to carry things in. The other thing where you can, the biggest thing that I see on expenses is all the things that once you get on site that you forgot that you needed and wanted.
Like what? Let's make a list. So folks, if you're enjoying this, get a pen and paper.
Right. So audio patch, right? So if you didn't think about, we'll just use the hotel sound. Well, they might charge you $65 for everything that you plug into the walls. So any electrical cord that you plug into the wall for charging your laptop, for setting up your iPhones, any kind of charging, things like that. Those are house sounds and house drop fees. So you want to check those out. People forget about that. They don't ask those questions. They get on site. You need electricity, and the hotel's going to charge you for it. So that's one area. The other thing is you decide that, you know what, let's go ahead and have another coffee break this afternoon at $85 a gallon. Send people to Starbucks or across the street to, grab a bag and go and get a coffee, because that's going to add up really fast. So really doing a budget ahead of time. And I know people are like, I don't want to do a budget, but know your back end. What do you want to make at the event and how are you going to get there? And then reverse engineer it. So if you want to make a 6-figure event and say you want to clear $100,000, then work all of your costs back from there. So that way when you can, then through that process, you can decide whether or not you're going to have handouts and binders and those kinds of things. And really and truly, if you are a great coach and you know your stuff and you know how to engage your people with lots of activities and being in dyads and triads and really communicating with each other and teaching and training, you don't need all of those support documents. A lot of reasons that people do big fat binders is because they feel that they need to give, and they need to give I have to give all this stuff,
I have to be honest,
right?
Since I have so much in my brain, I don't give big binders. I think big binders is because there's nothing in their brain.
Right.
So they use that to compensate because they actually don't know how to teach. And there's a lot.
possibly.
Well, I know you're being nice.
Yeah, I am.
I'm being a high
But that's my point.
I'm being a high critic of my colleagues who actually say they know a lot and they don't.
But that's my point. You don't need the fluff. It's going to go on a shelf. And there may be 5 or 6, there may be 5 or 6 or 10 people in the room that will actually take all the notes. You know, those kids in school,
Yep.
They took all the notes and stuff, which is great. But at the end of the day, if you're really teaching and training, just a few handouts to give support where support's needed, and really just bringing people into those learning sessions, and you can save a bundle there. Because printing costs for binders and things like that in a room of 100 can run you upwards $2,000, $3,000.
Yep, I know.
And you can put that into marketing, because really that brings us really back to the main point, is filling the room. And you want qualified people in the room. And that means that you don't really need to have a room of 100 in order to have a six-figure weekend. You could have a room of really good 30, 40 qualified people, high-end qualified people that are right for your program, and you're going to have the six-figure weekend that you want. But if you do bad marketing and you get, as we've recently experienced, and you throw anybody and everybody and their mother and brother and cousin and aunt and uncle in a room, you're going to have all these expenses, and you're not really going to make the money that you want to make. And you're not going to have the qualified people.
So 2 other topics. What should people, just on a range, because you've done so many events, so give some pricing for, say, a 1-day, a 2-day, a 3-day, like what should anyone listening that's wanting to put on an event or is putting on events, just what are some guidelines on pricing?
Mm-hmm. So you should plan for around $3,000 to $5,000 for a 1-day. And that's a full 1 day. That's you spending the night someplace, maybe a team member or 2, or are you talking about just...
No, I'm talking about the other side. Like what should they charge a client to
charging
come?
a client.
I'm sorry,
great.
Yeah.
Off of the expense side on the income side.
I forgot that transition. Yeah, here we go.
Okay.
So to the income side.
Okay, the income side. So you want to charge a minimum for a 1 day. You want to charge a minimum of, $47 to $97 a day. And then upsell them into, maybe a $997 package or a VIP day. You can sell them into like a $3,000 VIP day. Sells really well from a 1 day. From a 2 day, then you can do more like a 147 ticket up to a 197 ticket, and then you can sell them into more of a 6-week type training program, or even a longer program, or a full VIP day. So like a $5,000 package. On a 3-day program, there's 2 different models that people like to use. One is the refundable ticket, where they're saving a seat for $197, and when they come, they get it back. That works really good, and that formula works really good as long as you are able to cover all of your other costs through sponsorships and or program buy-ups. Then otherwise, you charge a $97 ticket and have people come.
Okay. Last topic before we are ending, sponsorship. Everyone wants to know. I'm sure we could do our own, just solo podcast about that. But in a few minutes, sponsorship, how do you get it? And what are some of the criteria?
So the best sponsorships are those from people that you know. They already love, like, and support you. And start there. And from there, then it grows by, word of mouth. People come, they have a good experience. The best thing for sponsors are to make sure that your sponsors are really well taken care of. And in this industry, people tend to do not such a good job with that. And so it's hard to get repeat sponsors. So you want to make sure that in order to get a $3,000 or a $5,000 sponsor, and these are sponsors who are not having stage time. These are sponsors that are just supporting the event. So you want to make sure that they get visibility, they get announcements from stage, people have traction, they know where they're at, they're in the foyer or they're in the room with you. They, they get something in your binder. If you're not doing a binder, then you have to do extra shout outs from stage.
You can put it on the website.
And you put it on the website, exactly. Really give them a lot of traction and love and as much visibility to the audience as you possibly can. If you're combining that with a speaker spot, and I don't really recommend more than 3 speaker spots on a 3-day event, because it's really about you. You want them to be there with you and learn from you and buy your stuff. You don't really want to provide a stage for everyone else to come and sell their stuff, right? So you have to be real careful about that. But let's say 2 to 3 people in a 3-day weekend can support your event. Those can be spots anywhere, again, from 3,000 upwards to 10,000, depending on your credibility and what kind of audience you bring to the sponsors. And you want to make sure then that they get the proper amount of stage time, always have a break after whether they're selling or not, always have a break so that they have time to connect with the audience. And the sponsors that do the best and support you the best are the ones that come and stay the whole 3 days.
Absolutely. And have a booth and are there and they manage.
And they really get engaged. The ones, I call them the one-hit wonders. They come in, they say their spiel, they present and they leave. The audience will buy, but there's a disconnect.
Yeah. So Linda, thank you. I appreciate it. And all of you, you've been at Loral's Real Money Talks. And if you've enjoyed this and you want to connect with Linda directly, you wanted to run an event, however you want to do it, you can go to askloral.com, put in your name, your phone number, your information, and say, I want to talk to Linda. I want to have a private conversation. And we will make sure that she gets your information and can connect with you. So Linda, thank you for being here. And all of you, you're at Loral's Real Money Talks. We'll talk soon on the next podcast.
Thank you, Laurel. It's always fun as always.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining Loral for this segment of Real Money Talks, how to make money, manage money, and invest money. To continue this new conversation and to find free resources to support your wealth creation, visit askloral.com/podcast gifts. That's askloral.com/podcast gifts. Thanks for listening and join us again soon. New episodes are released every week.